Are you a professional optimized business? Time to look at Northern Peugeot Bandura to further professionalize your fleet with their updated commercial van range. The team at Northern Peugeot Bandura can help customize your fleet to your business needs. Stock arriving now, so secure your van and beat the rush before the end of financial year madness. Visit northernpeugeot.com.au or call 9119 9008. T&C's apply.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website dkpco.com.au or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Pickett, she lays it off. Teresa Polias. It's an absolute peach. Ayres driving. What a hit from Melina Ayres. Wow. And Sam Kerr has a hat-trick.
And welcome back to another edition of Radio Dub as I struggle to get air into my lungs.
First sentence.
No, seriously, I really struggled just then. That was a bit embarrassing. But yes, it is another week, another bit of Radio Dub. You know, I feel like we have really hit our stride just as finals is about to start in the A-League Women's, where we're being more consistent with an episode each week. We're not bailing.
No.
When I say bailing, I bailed.
Except for a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
I bailed once. I had a birthday dinner. It was different.
That's fair.
That's fair. You've...
Whoa. Whoa. Don't throw me under the bus like that.
Okay. I just feel like the audience should know why they listen to certain voices each week.
Responsibilities.
Yeah.
Things to do.
But no, it was another entertaining round of A-League Women's action, because a lot of big results meant that the top four race, and even like true to actually any spot in the top four is really up for grabs. Like, and also any spot like for that final fourth spot into finals is also up for, like, really up for grabs.
Just when you feel like you know what's going on, just when you feel like you can at least separate out like the top from the middle from the bottom, just everything gets thrown around, and all of a sudden your understanding has to change, and these seemingly locked in expectations are now in doubt. We're questioning everything. I don't know what to feel or think anymore. I said it about Canberra United a couple of weeks ago. I said I'm done predicting or trying to understand. I feel like that about the whole league at the moment. What's going on?
Yeah, I know. What is going on with the whole league? Because Melbourne Victory are the big winners. Probably like this could be a really massive weekend for them. Brisbane Roar are big winners.
Huge.
But also we heard the news that Katrina Gorry is headed back to Sweden. So she's no longer going to be with the Roar. So that'll be interesting to see if they can manage to find themselves a way into the top four. It'll be difficult for them without Katrina Gorry.
Absolutely huge loss.
Yeah,
I mean, probably I would argue the most valuable player, like in terms of contribution to their team in the competition.
Yeah, that's probably fair. That's probably a fair assessment.
Like the gap between Brisbane Roar with and without Katrina Gorry is just it's
but
huge.
Brisbane Roar would say let's not be too quick to judge them. And I think a lot of people thought their top four race was. I certainly thought their top four race was well and truly done.
I mean, Brisbane Roar can say that, but we all know how good Katrina Gorry is.
Yes, we all understand how good Katrina Gorry is, and she's phenomenal. And it was probably pretty comfortable for them in the end. That win over Western United over the weekend, and for Western United things get even more shaky. They've played 16 games and they're on 33 points at the moment. That the finishing first is probably seems a little bit far at this point for them, because Sydney are have played 14 games and are on 33 points at the moment. Obviously 3 points of that is still in contention with Canberra, still got that appeal, and we don't know what the result of that's going to be yet. And for City, that loss to Victory on Monday, that kind of takes it out of their hands in terms of finishing premiers this season. So they kind of need results to go their way to finish premiers.
Yeah, and just on Western United, I mean, 4 of their last 6 they've now lost. So it's the wheels haven't come off, but they're shaking. They're wobbling.
Absolutely. They're well and truly shaking. But I think we spoke about it on this podcast earlier in the season, and I mentioned that I think Western United had done enough and maximised all the international players they had at one time and got a lot of points and accumulated that even if they were to stumble late in the season, they had almost done enough and they just need to do essentially the bare minimum. But then you think about a person like Mark Torcaso who really wants I don't think he would be just happy with top 4. I think he really wants to compete. They don't want to just be a placeholder in that finals competition. So how well can they cope when they get to finals? Will they be sitting ducks or will they be competitive and be able to get wins? And we've seen them get wins, so it's not like too far of a reach, but the form they're in now, it's certainly not great.
But look, and I think that looking at the competition as a whole, the fact that even the very best teams clearly have weaknesses, have fallibilities, and we've seen those exposed in recent weeks. I mean, this weekend, all 3 of the top 3 sides lost. And from a neutral observer perspective or from a fan perspective, I think that makes the league a lot more exciting and dynamic for sure. The fact that, the bottom team in the league beat Sydney FC, the top team in the league. What's going on? What?
We love that though.
How do Brisbane beat Western United and that isn't the most shocking result of the weekend? It's weird because Brisbane beat, Brisbane and Western United in the mean are probably a lot closer. Sure.
Certainly a lot closer in terms of their playing ability, than Wellington and Sydney. And I think the reason Wellington and Sydney, are you saying that it was the biggest storyline of the weekend?
I think it was the most surprising result of the weekend.
You say it is, but shout out to Georgia Rajic, who said that she thought Wellington, and also Tyron said that A-League Women's Callers from Paramount Plus doing a really great job this season, but they said that they thought Sydney could lose because Sydney had so many players out, and they had Charlotte McLean was out, Nat Tobin was out with suspension.
Yeah.
Madison Haley, see how I've been so good with her name.
Struggling, yeah.
Yeah, Madison Haley, she's out with injury at the moment. They had a lot of key players out. You would still think that there's so much talent at Sydney FC that they should be beating Wellington, but when you're this late in the season and you're changing things up, it might be hard for them to get into the rhythm when Wellington have been building. That's the whole thing about Wellington. They're just trying to build to get better each game by game.
I accept that there were lots of key players missing for Sydney FC, and you just look at the lineup and you see that there are a number of names there who haven't been week in, week out starters, but I think that the stronger case is there that this team should still be beating Wellington. I mean, when we talk about the absence of Madison Haley, which I think is huge, and Rachel Lowe playing as kind of that false 9 position, but they beat Western United playing like that.
Yes.
So we know that they're still capable going forward.
I think the centre-back partnership, the lack of that centre-back partnership is really crucial because they see the whole field and they help move your team going forward and defensively. So I think that's a massive loss. I think if they were able to just have had Charles McLean, I think they could have managed,
I struggle to put that result down to the defence because that actually wasn't their main problem over the weekend.
No, for
Sydney.
sure.
It was going forward. It was that they couldn't break down a Wellington defence. I mean, they had that one chance relatively late in the game where Courtney Vine made the run and played the ball across, which so nearly, but that was as close as they came. And other than that,
they just didn't create opportunities. That's true.
Yeah, they peppered a bit, but they didn't look particularly likely to scoring. But absolutely credit to Wellington Phoenix. I mean, I think since the last time they played Sydney, we've seen a different side to that side, and they've looked more like the team that we saw in their inaugural season last time around. And I think it's really important for that club and for that collective of players to have some good results to at least close out the season.
Yeah, and obviously they did play more games this year, but getting a goal. They've accumulated more points this season than they did last year, and they've got more draws in there and same amount of wins. But they've got to gradually build, and we would potentially like to see a steeper climb in terms of them getting better. But they're in a different position to a lot of the other teams where they've got to have Australian talent in their squads, and kind of limits them a little bit in terms of the talent from New Zealand they can fully have in their squad, because I think maybe if they were to have a team of just pure, primarily New Zealand-based players, I think their squad would be even better.
It's kind of wild that they're just a point away from not being bottom of the league all of a sudden. Like, they felt like far and away the bottom team for pretty much the whole season. And yet a good few weeks, and they just, I mean, obviously Newcastle.
Well, I will say that one thing that there is in their favour, their goal difference is only like -10.
Yeah.
Whereas Newcastle's is a whopping -28. So that tells me, and Wellington's comparative to Adelaide is -8 at the moment, and so is Western Sydney. Like, that's a sign of a prettier team that, you're not getting smashed every week. Like, you maybe lose by 1 or 2 goals, but, that's a significant improvement from last year. And when we're seeing the likes of Newcastle have a -28 goal difference, that's just hazard lights everywhere, and you might as well not even get in the car. But in terms of, yeah.
you put out the hook and then, I'm just going to reel it back in. We're not going to go down that road.
Not getting sucked into that, okay. Not a chance.
Fair enough. No, but I think Wellington's kind of improvement speaks to just kind of what we saw this weekend, which is just how tight the league is. There's a reason that these teams will often go on these little runs, is because it's only that 1 or 2% that it takes to turn your run of results around. We've seen that with Perth Glory. It wasn't quite falling the way that it did, and all of a sudden maybe it's not again. So it's every team has their weeks and shows what they can do, which speaks to where we're at as a league, and I think makes it more exciting.
No, it does speak to that in this top 4 race. Like, realistically, Western United could finish 4th, City could finish 4th, Victory, Canberra, Brisbane, technically still Perth at this point, but technically.
I mean, so much hinges on that Canberra appeal, doesn't it?
It really does.
So much to be said for it. But yeah, I think Melbourne Victory, perhaps the biggest winners in terms of the season as a whole over the weekend, in terms of the way the results fell, because it looked as if it was getting to the point of inevitability that one of the sides would catch them up. But just a few things have fallen their way for the last couple of weeks, which all of a sudden means the Jeff Hopkins side are relatively comfortable favourites to make the top 4.
You know what it is? It's when you have a good leader at the helm, Jeff Hopkins, able to steady the ship and make some really important decisions. Oh, wow. Stumbling with the way I said decisions just then. Yeah, decisions. In terms of having Amy Jackson playing, as the 6 in that side, and having Paige Joyce, Forza NPL Victoria, Paige Joyce playing as a right back. I think she did pretty well. She shut down Holly McNamara as best she could, and Holly McNamara could have had a few assists had the City, some of the City players been able to get the ball in the back of the net, but Paige Joyce thinks she did really well right back.
Yeah, I thought so too. Obviously that incredible goal was the highlight of it all. But yeah,
I don't think about the flashy Oscar. I think about the tactical,
hard work
of Paige Joyce.
Down and dirty. Yeah, no,
appreciate Paige Joyce.
Sure, but
former guest. If you've missed that interview, check it down on the archives. Really, really appreciate that. We'll plug every episode possible.
But I think it speaks to the fact that this Melbourne Victory side, it's so tough to count them out. They've proven it time and time again on the big occasions. They produce their best football. They stand up, and they did it again against Melbourne City. A Melbourne City side who I feel like every week on this show I come on and say, yeah, they lost, but also they were really good. Now, I don't want to say
sucked in.
Right. It's this desire to be alternative and edgy, really, that I'm really
people would call you edgy, Oscar. That's the word we'd use to describe you, edgy.
That's my number one characteristic. But I think that there are still a lot of positives for Melbourne City to take, maybe not from this game, but from where they're at as a season. It's kind of the most optimistic I've been about them under Dario Vidicic. I think that the returns of course, Holly McNamara as well as Cote Rojas have really transformed them into a whole new level of team.
Oscar, you say that it makes them, I think we want to continue this conversation about Melbourne City a little bit later in the...
Let's park it.
We'll park it. But we have the, what we love on Radio Dub here, Oscar? We love the guests, because the guests make the show. Because nobody wants to sit for 45 minutes listening to us speak, because we're not... So we're sometimes interesting, not all the time, but
hit and miss.
We're hit and miss. We're not that great, but we really, really appreciate Melbourne Victory. I don't know how to describe her position, because she plays in so many positions and she's so good at it. Utility. One of the best utility weapons. And Matilda plays for Melbourne Victory. Her name is Beattie Goad, who's joined Melbourne Victory this season. Beattie, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
We most certainly can. And, we appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to come and speak to us, because we are essentially children running a ship. And when we get really cool people to speak to us, we really, really appreciate it. Beattie, this season going to Melbourne Victory, how has it been like for you working under Jeff and working with Jeff and the girls?
Yeah, it's been really lovely to be back in my home city. I just love the culture of the club, Melbourne Victory. We've got such a good group of girls, and Jeff has just been so supportive of everything that I do off the field. So yeah, it's been a really smooth transition, and I feel really honoured to be part of Melbourne Victory.
Well, we feel honoured to get to watch you play, because some of your play this season has been fantastic. You've played in the back line and you've played at attack. What is your best position, or do you think you're just like really great at most positions that you try at some point?
I don't know if I have actually a best position, because I can play quite a few positions. I grew up mostly playing midfield, but I haven't actually played there in a while. What's my best position? I think it just depends on the day and who we're playing. I can't pick one, but I think I'm more comfortable probably in an attacking position rather than defensive position, just because I've spent more time being an attacking player. But yeah, I'm happy to be anywhere if I'm playing.
I'm going to be so honest with you, Beattie. Jeff had the presser after what was that game that I saw you, Oscar, and you were sitting there? Was it the Adelaide game? Oh, yes, it was the Adelaide game.
Yep.
And Beattie, I was telling Jeff, I said, Jeff, I think you need to play Beattie in the midfield. But obviously, you guys have got such a quality team. I just want to see you play the number 10 role, just so I can get the credit and see you do really, really well. That's just because I'm a narcissist like that. But for this side has been through so much, having Chids leave and, seeing Paige Joyce play at right back, and you guys have had to be forced to do so many different things this year. How do you think the group has adapted to those changes?
Yeah, we've had a lot of changes, and including we've last week lost KK to her injury. So we've had to be super adaptable. And I just think our ability to be adaptable just reflects the trust we have in one another. I think everybody had Paige's back that game. She spent the week training in right back. And so hopefully we created that supportive environment where she felt like she could excel. And clearly she did. She scored such a banger. So I think we have had to be really adaptable, and because we have such a good culture within our team, it makes for a smoother transition when we do have to make those small changes. So yeah, it's a credit to everybody in the team, and including Jeff, to also trust players to put them in those positions, and just have trust in his players that they'll perform given a new position or environment or system.
Beattie, you mentioned before Jeff being really accommodating as well of your off-field commitments. Now, I think you've undersold it a little bit, being literally a medical student whilst also being a professional footballer.
See, Oscar, we should be done with this interview. We're not smart enough.
Here's the thing. But my question for Beattie is, at its core, so, professional footballer for Melbourne Victory, we're not doing that a medical student. Beattie, what does it feel like, I guess, to just be better than everyone else?
That's what I'm talking about, Oscar.
No. No. No, there's many great humans out there. I'm just
But are they medical students and professional footballers? No, they're not. Yeah. They're not.
Actually, one of my best friends in medical school right now she's an Olympic walker. She's the third best walker in the world. So, there are other great people out there in medical school. You'll be surprised how med students and doctors can juggle many things.
See, I'm going to be so honest. Maybe I'm just falling into the stereotypes of medical students being super nerdy and just not athletic. Now that I know this, I feel like I just haven't done enough in my life because imagine being a medical student and then also being like a professional in anything, going to the Olympics and just being great.
Yeah.
Like you just walk around being like I would just walk around with a sign being like, I'm the best, please don't talk to me.
Yeah, and some people, whilst you were doing that, would be doing it at the Olympics because they're literally Olympic walkers.
Exactly.
So it's really going on. Although I liked that response from Beattie in the sense that just reinforcing that it's actually, there are lots of people who are a lot better than us. Like, it's not just Beattie, really. No. Look, Beattie, obviously those are two huge time commitments. How have you found balancing those two things back in Melbourne? Has it been an easy transition for you getting back home and having all those responsibilities?
Honestly, it hasn't been too difficult. Like while I was in college, I was also juggling like pretty harsh academics with playing a lot of soccer as well. So, excuse me. I say the one thing is, though, I'm back in my childhood home with my parents, and on the one hand, that is kind of weird to be back in my childhood home, having been like away for 6 years. But on the other hand, like having my parents there has been super helpful. I definitely would not be able to juggle both without them. So has it been a hard transition? Not terribly hard, but I also have like an extensive support system here. I came back here with friends from high school. I know a lot of the girls already on the team, and had my parents and my grandparents and my brothers around me. So I had a very good cushion around me to help. So honestly was not too difficult. But now that I'm in like the thick of med school, I'm drowning in work. But the transition was not too bad. But now I'm like treading ocean water, so it's getting a bit more difficult, but yeah,
you're treading it better than we any of us here on Radio Dub could. And you know what, Beattie, I've just thought about it now. We had Madison Haley on. Yep. Very smart, yes. Stanford or Harvard grad? Stanford. We don't know. We need to double check. But you know how you can, everybody double check it out on the Spotify archives of Radio Dub. And also Fiona Wirtz, a qualified mathematician. I just think that if there was like one of those TV shows where it's like the smartest brains, right? I think if we stacked up you three just to represent the A-League women's, I just think we would comfortably take it out. How do you feel about that?
Pretty good. And actually, Maddie went to Stanford. I was like in the same class. We were in the same class. She's a year younger than me, ? I'm not sure. But we were at Stanford for, I think, 3 years together. So I know Maddie really well. And yeah, we would, I'm not sure of the competition that you mentioned, but I think Maddie and I would.
I'm tempted just to create it. Like, I just think that we should just choose the smartest person.
Are you smarter than an A-League women's footballer?
No. Is the answer. But see, I know what. So Beattie, who do you reckon's like? Who's smarter then? Like you or Madison? Now that you know her, like now that you told us that you guys went to school together.
That's in the A-League?
No, just between you and Madison Haley. Like, what's the competition?
Oh,
like,
who do you think is smarter between Maddie and I?
Yeah, if you do like a quiz, who's like winning?
Oh, you can't ask me that.
Come on, Beattie, come on. Talk. Hey,
I think we're smarter. I think we're smarter in different ways because I'm obviously in med school, so I am like more sciences. But I think Maddie studied, symbolic systems, so it's a mix of like computer science and philosophy. I could be wrong, but she
sounds too smart for us to even know what it is. Like, honestly, you just said that. You just said that, and I've just gone, I do media at uni, and I barely do that. Oscar, you do law, so like, you know what? You need to bring up the GPA on this show, please, because when we're talking to these guys and we don't know what we're talking about, we look ridiculous.
But it's a really good point. But I love knowing that you, Beattie, actually knew Madison at Stanford. That's kind of crazy. Have you like maintained a communication line with her up to this point? Did you know that she was coming? Did you play a role in that?
Yeah, of course. We chat all the time. When after the games, even though they've beaten us twice, I still obviously go up to her and we have a good little chat. When we played in Sydney, we had lunch the next day together. So yeah, we're pretty tight. I was not really involved with her coming over to Australia, apart from like just reassuring her that it was a cool place to live and play. But I think she had all of that down pat. She's got a good CV and all that, so I don't think she needed my help in any sense. But yeah, we stay in touch, and I'm excited to see what she does next, because I think her career is like just jet setting off right now.
I know she's fantastic because she keeps getting me fantasy points, even though she's been out recently, and that's why I kind of need her to get back really quickly, because like those fantasy points, I was very poor showing by me on the weekend, very, very poor. Now, Beattie, I want to ask, obviously coming back from Europe to Australia, that must have been like a massive decision. Like, when did you first start thinking about, I think I want to go back home and see, you know, how I am, and go back to seeing your family on a more consistent basis? And it must have been a massive change in your life.
Yeah, it was not a snap decision per se. It was like very gradual. And I guess it began, so when I first started college in the US, I knew I wanted to go to medical school. I knew I wanted to be a doctor. That was like a big goal of mine. And then in second year at college, my mum sort of sat me down and was like, we can't afford to finance you going to medical school in America, because it's just super expensive for international students. And I sort of had to wrap my head around that pretty soon and pretty early on. And then I guess that then led to me to think, okay, I should probably do med school back home in Australia. I could potentially get a Commonwealth spot, and like the finances is sort of not a big deal. So that's when I say it was gradual, like I sort of had that seed in my brain already. And then when I went pro in Europe, I actually had gotten into med school like right out of college, so back in 2020, and I deferred for 2 years, so I really delayed coming back, and it was definitely a hard decision, and even I was deciding between Sydney and Melbourne, and that was also like maybe one of my hardest decisions.
Beattie, let's just stop right there. Let's just take a break. Deciding between Sydney and Melbourne is not hard, okay? You need to look at the city map, and you realise you can't drive in Sydney, and you say Melbourne's the only legitimate option.
Yeah, I think it was more just like, is coming back home like a step back, which was like psychologically makes sense in my brain, but it's not really true at all. But I think that just took me a while to like realise that Melbourne was probably the better choice, even though I guess for 6 years I was chasing this idea that identity and growth is like connected to being outside of home and away from your comfort zone. But being home is like not necessarily in my comfort zone, because I'm like juggling two incredibly difficult paths in life. So that probably is more venting and ranting that you needed. No.
I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I think that might have been the smartest, most thoughtful answer anybody has ever given already. And we've had some really great answers. But when I was listening to, I was like, you're way too smart. This isn't fair for one human to be well-rounded in their thought process about things, and just have like that look on life. And I want to just touch on that. Have you always kind of had that outlook, or do you think that going away allowed you to even to get that and even expand it, and you know, just make you more confident in the choices that you make?
Yeah, 100%. I definitely think that growth and like identity growth requires like stepping outside of your comfort zone, but in a sense that it's not it's not detrimental to like mental health or well-being. So like you're stepping outside by like leaving home and experiencing a different culture, a different country, trying to make new friends, trying to create a new network for yourself, a new support system for yourself outside of your home and away from like parents and friends you've had since primary school. I think there's a huge amount of growth that comes with that. But then also like I was away for 6 years, and especially my time in Spain, I noticed that like constant having to grow my network and like grow my support system was having a little bit of a toll on like my mental health, and then my like I guess I just got a bit lonely, to put it really bluntly. I was like, I miss home. So you can definitely get homesick from being away from home, but there's a balance. Being away from home, you grow, but also you just have to recognize, like, sometimes being home, just because you're home doesn't mean you can't grow. It's just a balance.
I mean, Beattie, you speak so eloquently about all the things that you grew from your time overseas, obviously in places like America, I think Spain and Germany as well. I guess both on a personal and also a football level, what were kind of some of the biggest learnings that you took away from your time not in Australia?
So many things. So many things. I mean, how do you explain 6 years of growth? It's pretty hard. I think in the US, I learned mainly, obviously, independence and all that jazz. Like, when you move out of home, everybody experiences that. But I think the biggest thing when I moved to the US was just experiencing different ways the country runs. Like, the US just runs so differently. I learned about race and discrimination, which I just from a very privileged point, I didn't face growing up here in Australia. And then I went to the US and Trump had just been voted in, and obviously that rattled a lot of my friends. And I got into politics more, and just opened my eyes to, okay, the world is much larger and can be crueler than what I grew up sheltered in. So I think that was a huge learning for me in the US, which is just aside from football. In football in the US, I think I learned you can really be stretched to your limits. We work so hard in the US in the college system. So that was really challenging. But then also our team at Stanford was incredible. If you love Maddie, just multiply Maddie by 20 people. And that was our team. It was a lovely team. And then in Germany and Spain, again, just different cultures, different ways of living. I mean, the Spanish people live so differently to the Americans. It's maybe two ends of the spectrum, to be honest.
I love the way Spanish people are, honestly. I went to Barcelona, loved it. They are living their best life.
The late nights,
it's fantastic. Everything is great in Spain, honestly. I think everyone should move to Spain.
Radio Dub does Spain,
No, seriously.
Yeah, it's a very relaxed way of living, which works and also doesn't work for me. I'm very type A, so that was very interesting being in Spain and being hey, maybe I shouldn't be as type A. I mean, those are just like maybe two huge learning points, but there's a lot more. I would have to like think more and read my journal. Yeah, hopefully that they're two insightful points.
Do some study next time you come
please,
on, Beattie.
come on.
Like, be prepared.
Be prepared when you come on Radio Dub.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. No, but Beattie, speaking to you is really important because this is the reason why we love Radio Dub and getting to know more about players and the things that they care about and you understand the footballers are not just, the people who kick the ball on the pitch, but obviously the footballing aspect is pretty big. Now, Beattie, me and Oscar here, we're championing you for a Matilda's call-up. I'm going to be so honest about that.
Roped me into
this. Oscar, don't act like we haven't had this conversation. Don't start ducking now.
No.
Don't start ducking.
I won't. It's true.
It's very true. Now, obviously you are a very busy person and, you have lots and lots of interests, but how high is like a Matilda's call-up? How important is that to you? Or is that just something that if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen?
Well, I think I've been asked that a lot actually, and it often is phrased like that. Is it at the top of your list, or if it happens, it happens? And I feel like for me personally, it's healthier when it is almost a byproduct of the hard work that you do in the moment. So I like to sort of think that I'm working hard for my team right now, and I want to be performing at the best that I can for my team because that's the team that I'm in right now. And if that's recognized with the Matilda's call-up, I think that's obviously would be absolutely incredible. And no football, every footballer is going to aspire to that. But I think when you get bogged down and upset by the fact that you don't get a call-up or whatnot, and you're just very hyper-focused on Matilda's call-ups and not getting Matilda's call-ups, I think that's when you're skewing like how you're seeing football, because I think it should just, I mean, call-ups can be also, and don't quote me on this, but like subjective. Like football is
fair.
subjective.
No, fair.
So
we don't have to quote you. It's fair. It's a fair shout.
Yeah, so I mean, there are people that are not going to like how you play. There are going to be people that love how you play. And I think over the years in college, like I had a season in college where I hardly played, and the next season I played like every game. So it just like, it undulates. And I think when you give your happiness and your like joy in the game in someone else's hands, then it just crumbles. Like that's why I personally just like to focus on the team I'm in right now, the game that I'm going to play next week. How can I be the best player for those players, for myself? And obviously I'm going to be lying if I'm not aspiring for a Matilda spot. But I think over the years I've realized and learnt that I can't be super hyper focused on that, because I'll just like maybe might be disappointed. And then what's the point in that?
No, fair.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's a great way to look at that. And hey, if they don't call you up, I'm saying they're missing out. Personally, you don't have to campaign for yourself. We'll campaign for you. We'll get the T-shirts. We'll get the songs going.
Beattie Goad for the World Cup.
For the World Cup, we're walking around with the flag.
BG World Cup.
BG World Cup. No,
That's so sweet.
It'd be fantastic to see you playing at the World Cup. Now, Beattie, on Radio Dub, obviously we've talked about a lot of serious things, but you seem like you got a sense of humour, and you seem like a quite funny individual. I want to know, in the Victory team, are you like, I know Maya Moskovsky is the ultimate joker at Melbourne Victory women's team. Where are you ranking in terms of the comedy level? Are you bringing it, or are you kind of just like in a conversation, you just come out with the really quick and witty lines?
I definitely wouldn't like put myself as the biggest clown, because I think most of the time that people laugh at me, it's more at me than with me, to be honest. But I will say that for and maybe I'm like saying too much on this call that I shouldn't be, but anyway, for like introduction into the team, we do at Victory, you have to do a performance, and my performance actually with Tiff Eliadis, she would not mind me like including her in this, but Tiff and I, we actually did a skit and we acted out as each person on the team.
Oh, nice.
Even the coaching staff and our manager on an away trip in the dinner room, which I think that surprised a lot of people. They're like, what is Beattie doing? But I definitely can be a clown, and there's definitely a funny side to me. I'm not the team clown for sure, but I bring the jokes.
I like
when
that.
it's necessary.
No, I like that. Somebody needs to find this footage for us, yeah?
Yeah,
Somebody,
no, for sure. Someone's filmed it.
Bring that footage out, Melbourne Victory, right now.
Who was your favourite person to impersonate, Beattie? Like who was at the top of your list? Like, I can't wait to pull out my impression of that particular person.
I mean, everybody is so niche on our team. They have so many quirks. I don't want to put anyone under the bus.
Okay.
I think
that's fair.
will,
You can tell us after the call. Don't worry. Tell us after the call. Tell us after the call. No. I'm fascinated because I love those kind of things. I know it's very personal to the team, but also great content.
Also fantastic. I'd love to see that. It's amazing. Yeah.
No, but Beattie, you guys for Melbourne Victory, obviously the season hasn't been perfect, but you guys have worked incredibly hard, and the massive win on Monday against Melbourne City and helping you in a big push to make that top 4. How do you see the team currently, and how did you see the game on Monday?
Yeah, I mean, the game on Monday was huge for us. I think we were really focusing on our attitude, like post a goal, whether it was against or for. Since the last 2 games prior, we'd conceded right after scoring. So we were just like very focused on our attitude. And I think looking back on the game, we've all reflected that it was such a big team performance and we really can like perform under pressure. So it was a huge confidence boost for us. It fueled the fire. Like we are really raring to go. We feel strong and we just have like, it's really strengthened our culture. Looking forward, I think one step at a time. I think Kayla said that to us all, and not to get too excited, as it is just one game that we won. But out of many, but it's just one game. So I think we're in a really good spot. We're trying not to be. We have experienced players, so we know not to get cocky. But we know that the fire's burning, and we're going to keep going. So yeah.
Now, Beattie, we will let you go soon. We have been. Oh, that's intense.
That is so intense. And I'm not going to lie to you, Beattie. I do think the fire alarm in our building has actually gone off, which is
wild.
so incredibly funny. So we're going to head to an ad break, and we might be back, or the building might be burning down. We're not quite sure.
Yeah.
So, Beattie, we really appreciate you.
We may need Beattie's help afterwards.
Yeah, we might need your medical assistance.
Yeah, maybe I said fire too much. In the last
maybe. No, Beattie, we appreciate it. We're going to head to a quick break, a quick or long break here on Radio
We'll
Dub.
find out.
And we'll find out, and we'll see everybody later.
Thanks, Beattie.
No worries.
Thanks, Beattie.
Be safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are